Okay, Ambassador, so much has happened over the last few days and week, perhaps. You know, and a week is a long time, but so much has happened, a lot of which created a lot of public discussion. One of which is the whole question of the AFREXIMBANK having its headquarters in Barbados and the granting of land towards that project.
Yeah, well, you know, I really want us to devote this conversation to the budget and the measures in the budget that have a Caribbean integration relevance. But I thought that just before we get into that, it'd be good to have a little word about AFREXIMBANK, because I was one of those persons that played a significant role behind the scenes facilitating the bank establishing itself here, and I worked on the headquarters agreement. You know, as at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I had the privilege to work on the headquarters agreement, so I know a little bit about this idea of the bank setting up its AFREXIMBANK Africa Trade Center here in Barbados. You know, so 12 CARICOM countries, including Barbados, have signed on to the partnership agreement with the AFREXIMBANK. Therefore, the AFREXIMBANK could have gone to any one of the 12. We managed to convince them that, look, Barbados is the place to set up your Caribbean headquarters. And just like any international institution, whether it is the CDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, UN, CXC, UE, once you get that privilege that the institution has selected your country to set up its headquarters, then it is expected that the government of the country will provide the land, you know, the space for the institution to set up. So for example, under our headquarters agreement with AFREXIMBANK, we have actually been providing them with temporary office space over the past 2 years. They actually opened an office in, I think, around July 2023. Yes. So the agreement says that in the first 2 years, Barbados will provide them with temporary office space, but then they would be expected to actually build their own headquarters, and our responsibility would be to provide the land. So government has provided that that piece of land in Jemets Lane, where the Ministry of Health used to be located. But I want Barbadians to know that under the agreement, AFREXIMBANK is going to be investing $180 million United States dollars in that facility. So that facility is going to include not only their headquarters, their office space, it is also going to include a technology incubation hub, a small and medium enterprise facilitation incubation hub, a data services trade center, a hotel, conference and exhibition facilities. So this is a major investment that is going to create many jobs for Barbadians. And it is, while it is a regional facility, but clearly, if it is set up in Barbados, it is Barbadian small businesses and enterprises that are going to benefit most from the services offered by AFREXIMBANK. So we are very fortunate that they actually chose Barbados, and we're going to have that world-class facility set up there in Jemets Lane. And you know, this bank is doing tremendous work. They have allocated $2.5 billion United States dollars to energizing trade and investment between the Caribbean and Africa. And in addition to all that they have been investing in individual countries, I mean, the first loan we got from them was a $25 million United States dollars loan to renovate Kensington Oval, right? Which we were able to do in time for the World Cup. So they're doing similar things all across the Caribbean, all the CARICOM countries. But in addition to that, they are helping us develop. For example, they're working with our Caribbean Development Fund, CARICOM Development Fund, to help them develop a growth and resilience fund that will mobilize a lot of the savings in the Caribbean and make it available for investment development. They're working with our central banks to develop a CARICOM payments scheme where we won't have to, when we trade, we won't have to trade with US dollars. We'll be able to use our own currencies. And they've also given a grant to help us establish our own CARICOM Export-Import Bank, you know. So this is a very important institution that at a time when some of our traditional partners are withdrawing,
Yes.
we now have to look at alternative relationships. And one of the big alternatives we need to look at is the relationship with Africa. Yeah, so anyhow, I just wanted to say that.
And thanks for the clarity. But you've touched also on some elements coming out of the budget as it relates to how we relate one with the other, how we build on each other. So let's look, for instance, on the whole question of climate resilience and climate.
Yes.
Because I know that was a big point made.
Well, first of all, you know, to say this budget was remarkable in that it seemed to have given something to everybody. You know, you mentioned the children with Down syndrome. I mean, one of the aspects of this budget was social security grants for children with disabilities. So everybody, I mean, literally everybody got something from this budget. Barbadians over 70 years old got podiatry, podiatry services. All Barbadians over 18 will get a solidarity allowance. Men got maternity leave as a result. So everybody got something, but I dare say Caribbean integration was also touched upon. So you mentioned the climate resilience and disaster mitigation. I think the elements in the budget that touched upon that are really sending a message to the rest of the Caribbean that we have to get serious about building resilience. So, for example, you know, Barbados really forged ahead with these debt pause clauses, and Barbados has been a pioneer. You kind of lead the way, you showed where you need to go, and others follow. So we heard a lot about these policy loans with a catastrophe deferred drawdown option. And we heard that Barbados has already put one of these loans in place with the Inter-American Development Bank. That is, you negotiate the loan, you have the loan, but you only use the loan if you're hit by a disaster. And once if God forbid, I mean, you don't want to be hit by the disaster, but the point is the money is there waiting for you. So we have already put in place one such loan with the IDB to the tune of US $80 million. And in the budget speech, it was revealed that we are currently negotiating a similar loan with the World Bank, and that we will be doing similarly with the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is a serious initiative to make sure that a country that is on the front line of the climate crisis, that you have a mechanism in place that, God forbid, you are hit, you can respond immediately. So I think that is setting an example for the rest of CARICOM. The same way we did with the debt pause clauses, that is setting an example that we have to be serious about this. Then we took our catastrophe fund. Virtually everybody has a catastrophe fund. You know, you put aside a little money if you're hit by a disaster. But in this budget, we were informed that we are now transforming that into a resilience and regeneration fund. So not only are we going to be expanding it in a very big way, but we are not going to be holding that fund simply for what happens after a disaster hits you. We will also be using the increased resources now to actually build resilience before. So the fund will be used to actually make us more resilient before any disaster hits, and it will also be there to be available after a disaster hits. So we heard how employers will be required now to match the contributions of employees. The contribution, the upper limit is going to be extended upwards. The government itself is every year is going to be putting 1/4% of the country's GDP into the fund. So what we are talking about, Pearson, is a real game changer. You know, we have been on the international stage arguing that the UN must set up a loss and damage fund so that countries like ours that did not contribute to global warming, if we are hit by a disaster, we should get grants, reconstruction grants.
Right.
That's good. That's fine. We make that case internationally, but we don't just do nothing. While we are making that case, we also have to do for self.
Yes.
So these measures outlined in this budget are a very serious, it's breaking new ground. And it is setting an example for the whole of the region. Brothers and sisters, this is the direction we have to go in. Because while we advocate on the international scene for these reconstruction grants, we can't be defenseless. We have to do for self. And I think people all over the world and entities all over the world have come to respect Barbados for that. Barbados not only goes out there making demands, but Barbados also does for self.
Right.
You know?
Indeed so. And I know the Prime Minister's passion for Caribbean, the CSME, and the movement of people. Part of what was also delivered in the budget was the whole question of making it easier for regional travel.
Yes.
Let's touch a bit on that.
Yeah, well, you know, we have this, it's called the Air Travel and Tourism Development Fee. It is basically what we would call an airport tax.
That's it, yes.
And Barbados has decided, it was announced in the budget, that we will be reducing that fee, not for all passengers, but for regional travelers, travelers within our region. We're going to reduce it from US $35 to US $20. So it's a saving of 30 Barbados dollars. Right. But as Minister Strawn said, you know, while some people, oh, it's just $30 for a plane passage within the region. But, you know, if you're traveling as a family, you know, it adds up. It adds up. It adds up. So it is at least, it's a step in the right direction, because for a long time now, Caribbean people have been complaining about the high cost of travel within the region, and the fact that a big part of that high cost is government taxes. Sometimes more than half of the cost of the air ticket is actually government taxes. So this is a step in the right direction. Let's see how we could reduce those government taxes as much as possible to facilitate intra-Caribbean travel. So that was good. And there were also other measures in the budget. For example, filling the skills gap.
Yes.
You know, which ties in with intra-regional travel. But we are in a position in Barbados where we have the demographic profile of a developed country. You know, we have an aging population. We have less and less school-age children, for example. So there's a need for us to bring into our country young people who economically active, are working, are contributing to paying taxes, contributing to national insurance, and so forth. And the budget did address that. How are we going to attract to Barbados people with skills who can be part of our economy? And of course, we've been talking about the CARICOM free movement regime. We are working on that. We expect that will come into effect, probably not with all the CARICOM countries to begin with, probably with a coalition of the willing, but that should come into effect around about the middle of this year. But in the budget, Minister Strawn also signaled that we are going to be filling the skills gap by two things. We're going to be actually training more of our people, giving them the critical 21st century skills, but that we will also be looking to that inward migration, not just of any and everybody, but of people who bring the skills that we need. And the skills that we need, many people would have passed on the ABC highway at Newton.
Yes.
And you'll see the spaceship. You see the spaceship at Newton, right? Well, that is the new Barbados economy being built out. That is the life sciences park. So we are talking biotechnology, we are talking pharmaceuticals, etc. And it was also announced in the budget that we are developing a Tier 3 data processing and management facility. So we have to both train our people in those new skills, but we also have to look to the Caribbean, look to CARICOM, look to our diaspora, our Bajan diaspora, and hopefully during the course of this year, we're going to get those legislative changes to grant to the children, the grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Bajans overseas, citizenship rights, and draw them closer to Barbados.
One of the regional items that is still on much many lips, crime. And what did the budget say about that and how we tackle it as a region?
Well, the minister made the point that in addressing crime, there has to be, of course, a national response, but there also has to be a regional response, and that the two have to complement each other. So while he announced elements of the national response, which was addressing the needs of the police force for greater numbers, the measure to convert special constables after 3 years into full-fledged police officers, to increase the number of special constables, also $2 million for new vehicles and equipment, and another $2 million for salaries. But so that's the national response that he referred to. But he also made the point that complementing that national response is the CARICOM initiative centered around Godfrey Smith. Godfrey Smith, the former Attorney General of Belize, former judge of the Eastern Caribbean Court. He is leading a CARICOM initiative where through that CARICOM effort, he will be coming into the different CARICOM countries with specific measures to improve policing, the standard of policing, and also to improve the standard of our criminal justice system, how the courts function, how the prosecutors function, how we can speed up the whole delivery of justice. The other, I know we are closing off, so the other element that really has resonated with Caribbean integration was the trade facilitation. And the fact that a decision has been made that we are going to invest in the IASCUDA 5, the latest edition. IASCUDA is this automated mechanism for dealing with customs processes and procedures that has been developed by UNCTAD. And so we are going to be implementing the newest iteration of that system. It's going to be rolled out, and that is going to speed up, make much more efficient how we do trade, how our importers import goods, it's going to facilitate importers and exporters. So that will help us, that will help Barbadian business people to better utilize the CSME, the Caribbean, our CARICOM market.
Ambassador, you made that so simple. Thank you for that, for explaining it so simply, so that we see those measures that were delivered in the budget and how they really translate to active items from how we live into just how we live within the region. So again, as always, it's wonderful having that conversation on CARICOM with you. Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong. Thank you so much.
Morning, morning, morning.